Boy, when we heard about this in March, we scrambled to try to, we thought maybe the students would be coming back, but we needed to space them out, so we kind of set everything up since then. It's been spaced 6 to 10 feet apart in this whole academic area. We have 4 different rooms that we use. And we moved computers, we moved chairs, we moved tables. We actually took out about 80 seats. So our capacity right now, we expanded it a little bit from March. It's about 35 seats. So we can only have that many students plus our staff here at any one time. And what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to, by appointment, we have to schedule students to be here. We do have some students with required study time. They need to learn how to be a college student to get the success that we want to see. We aren't able to do drop-in studying because that would, cause a capacity probably an issue. So they have to make an appointment to be here, and we're going to expand that as we can with the CDC, and they allow more in or out. We have to be flexible, and so we're going to start with those students who are required to be here by coaches or by our staff, encouraged to do well, to learn how to manage their time. And then we're going to add it. Some students just want to come in and study, and we want them to be able to do that. So in a couple weeks, when we see how things have gone in the transition, we'll see if we can open it up more. So we're only going to be open 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, and the times will be blocked. The students that have required hours will know their time and day they can come. And we're going to have procedures around where they should clean their space, make sure that it's ready to go for their personal use, washing their hands. And so we're trying to have the safety precautions in place. So our plan is that they don't arrive before their time to start. I think that's the rule in the building. You just can't come and hang out until it's time to do the next thing. So this is not that facility like it used to be a little bit for students. Like they would come and do their training room appointment, and then they would come and study for a bit, and then they go to practice. We aren't really able to do that because they have to basically get an appointment for practice, or appointment for the training room, or appointment for their weightlifting. And so we're just the same way with that. And again, students who want to study in a couple weeks, if we have capacity to allow them in, then we'll be figuring that appointment time out. Some kind of shared document or something that we can tell them, yeah, we have enough room for you to come in that time. I think since March is that I've had a lot of team meetings with them on Zoom. And we've gotten to know them individually as students one-on-one, but then as a team, we've kind of set them up for the expectation of what was going to be like here. The whole university is doing the same thing. So in terms of our area, we then are now doing it at the team level since they're here. And in our first week, our first-year students are meeting with each of our staff to do an orientation, get organized, look at their syllabi, see what's due when, make sure they understand how the process works, how the courses are taught, answer any questions. So that's really this first week. It's an explore point. But then we also have some students who will have a mentor who might need a little bit more organizational help, and they'll do a weekly appointment with that person. And of course, we have tutoring, students who might have trouble with a certain subject. That'll be coming. And our tutoring sessions are actually going to be video this fall. I was just talking with another colleague about the academic center access is unusual for even the American East Conference, because most of those other conference schools are closing their academic centers. Students aren't able to access it at all. So we're trying to have it available, limited, and then expand as we can. So I think that's the best thing that we could do. And I think then we'll get to know the students better as well, and hopefully the outcomes will be good academically. We all, as a team at Maine, all of us in the athletic department, want to embrace the student experience, and we're all feeling the same things, even though we're maybe we're on the other side of it and they're students. But we want to reassure them that we're here for them, that they can make it, even if they're challenged. And they just have to take a deep breath and keep going. And we have to do that in all aspects of life right now, whether you're a student or not. In all of their experiences in their dorm, in their campus, in their athletic areas, all the different areas that they have to access here. So I think just if we can keep it positive, asking how they're doing, making sure we feel like they're doing okay, and sharing that with each other to support that, we'll have a successful semester.
For more than 168 years, Bangor Savings Bank has stood by its employees, customers, and communities. And we're not stopping now. We will be here for you today and every day ahead.
What motivates us at Casella?
I want to help our customers recycle as much as possible.
Because I care about the environment and how our company impacts our towns.
And at Casella Organics, we find new uses for all sorts of materials.
It's hard work.
But I'm helping people every day.
And that makes me feel like part of the community.
A community I care about. So I do everything I can to sustain the resources of our environment.
Casella, dependable, caring people, part of your community.
Out here, if you have the will, you can lead the way. With the all-new Fisher EZ-V V-Plow. Purpose-built to provide industry-leading features, performance, and efficiency. Just like the other V-Plows in our lineup, but in a lightweight design that's ideal for businesses and homeowners using half-ton trucks. A strong yet versatile plow that handles the work and won't back down. The all-new Fisher EZ-V V-Plow. Built for Fisher Nation. For more information, visit fisherplows.com.
Right, I think the biggest challenge was for a while, every week a new document came out from the NCAA. It could be something from the National Athletic Trainers Association, the American Medical Association, the Pediatric. So we were getting information about what a lot of people thought were good things to do. And so we're reading through all that, and in April we started to come up with guidelines for our athletes. What's that return going to look like? What are we going to do? So we were preparing for a June start, and then that was postponed. We got ready for a July start, that was postponed. Then we were ready for August, and of course that was postponed. So throughout all those stages, we've had 4 different restart protocols in place, each of them adjusting or being modified to whatever current standards or new outlines or guidances were coming from the NCAA, the American Medical Association, the CDC, the main CDC, and the National Athletic Trainers Association. Right, so we ended up changing the budget this year with our order for sure. We had new sprayers we brought in for sanitation. So with the 3 athletic training rooms we have on campus, ice hockey, football, and baseball are used by a variety of teams. So what that means is that we have to have those sprayers to disinfect the area before we start the day, the middle of the day, at the end of the day. And in between each patient, we had to buy more sanitizer for cleaning off the tables, hand sanitizer for every station that we do treatment in, and then also protocols with spacing of the training rooms. I was placed on a committee on campus that was going to go over our individual testing here, and that was probably about June. So I knew what the university was planning on getting to. There's some other testing we're working on right now, surveillance testing, and what that'll look like for our athletes to continue to work out. But to answer your question, the America East, Hockey East, the CAA committees being involved with all of them, trying to figure out one way or another what would be best for the health and safety of our student athletes. So not just myself, so the athletic trainer from New Hampshire and Albany and Richmond and James Madison, we were all putting our heads together to come up with solutions to help us with how we can test, how we can keep athletes safe, what would be best, and it was very helpful. I mean, every university is unique, so what they might do at University A could be different than University B, but the protocol or premise could be very similar. Yes, we're very grateful that the president allowed us to have workouts starting in June. So Ken Ralph and the president, looked at our protocols. They decided what they liked and disliked. We made some adjustment and changes, and then I think it was June 15th or 17th, we had kids coming back, athletes coming back, and we were working out, and we followed a lot of stringent protocols, and we've been very, very fortunate. The athletes are willing and able to follow the rules, and by doing that, we're able to work out, and that's been growing since June. There was a little lull in August when everything was postponed for the fall, which I understand, and I'm glad those athletes got to go home and see their parents again. But now we're ramping up and we're getting ready to go, and I'm looking forward to seeing what October holds for us. The training rooms themselves have been spaced out to meet certain CDC and state of Maine guidelines. Now, fortunately for us here at the University of Maine, there's a lot of people that really care about us. So other individuals on campus came over and looked at what we had set up and said, this looks good. They want to keep us safe as employees, but more importantly, keep the student athletes safe. So we got the go ahead with everything we're doing for treatment and rehab, and it was a team effort. It wasn't anything that myself or Paul Kalina just came up with and said, oh, this looks good. We actually had to go through committees and make sure things were approved and had them looked at by individuals to make sure it met standards. So we feel very confident in what we've done. Yeah, so seeing that I mainly take care of football, I'll just use that as an example right now. But the first 2 weeks, we're going to be going very slow, ramping back up, building up. And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to increase intensity and be building back up to a game speed. There won't be any contact for the first 4 weeks. These guys are going to lift weights, condition, and do individual with their coaches. So it's a hybrid football for a month. And then around October 5th, if all things go well and everybody on campus behaves and everything works out, we're going to be doing something that's football related, and we'll be playing football. And that is very exciting for me. On a personal note, I've been doing football for over 25 years, and this is the strangest fall I've ever lived through. And I'm ready to get back to some normalcy.
There's still time left in this year's building season, and Hammond Lumber Company is here to help. From free estimating and planning to design and drafting services and a wide variety of products, as well as complete home and garage packages. Hammond showrooms are open with CDC recommended procedures in place, or browse online and place your order by phone. Delivery is free within striking distance of any Hammond location statewide. Keep your project on schedule with help from Hammond Lumber Company, your building project partner.
For more than 168 years, Bangor Savings Bank has stood by its employees, customers, and communities. And we're not stopping now. We will be here for you today and every day ahead.
What motivates us at Casella?
I want to help our customers recycle as much as possible.
Because I care about the environment and how our company impacts our towns.
And at Casella Organics, we find new uses for all sorts of materials.
It's hard work.
But I'm helping people every day.
And that makes me feel like part of the community.
A community I care about. So I do everything I can to sustain the resources of our environment.
Casella, dependable, caring people, part of your community.
Out here, if you have the will, you can lead the way with the all-new Fisher EZ-V V-Plow. Purpose-built to provide industry-leading features, performance, and efficiency, just like the other V-Plows in our lineup, but in a lightweight design that's ideal for businesses and homeowners using half-ton trucks. A strong yet versatile plow that handles the work and won't back down. The all-new Fisher EZ-V V-Plow, built for Fisher Nation. For more information, visit fisherplows.com.
The biggest challenge probably was reacting to everything that happened over the course of, between March, really until now, the end of August. But ultimately, getting a definitive plan set up and figuring out what we were actually going to be able to do, what was going to be real, and what wasn't. Because, in the early stages, obviously, and nobody's been through this before, but you're kind of just reacting to the situation and learning about it and figuring out what's going on. And then when we got to really, I guess it was probably, late July when we realized that it didn't look like the fall was going to happen. Because before that, everything was about the fall and getting ready for camp and getting ready for athletes to come back and the fall season. And I guess really once once those schools started canceling the fall semester sports, that's when it became a little bit more real. It seemed like the timeline worked out to where, us saying, okay, fall's not gonna work, but, with medical science progressing, then we get to, the winter, we probably can make it work. And still we don't know, obviously, but we knew that we were gonna have athletes come back. We knew we were going to have to work with them. Obviously from an academic standpoint, they were going to be on campus. So if they're on campus, then, we still need to be able to service them, which is what we want to be able to do and what they wanted to have access to. So for the majority of our student athletes returning to Orono, it was really important for us to put them in a safe environment to really exceed their expectations about what our program was going to be like. One, from a strength and conditioning standpoint and creating adaptations that those athletes had missed for a very significant amount of time, of course, over the summer and now into the semester. But, doing all those things that they wanted to do, but also following all the recommendations that have come from the NCAA, come from the state, come from the conferences, and so forth. I think we're fortunate that we don't have a lot of positive tests in our preliminary testing when students came back. If we were above the threshold of, positive tests, then there's a likelihood that they're, canceling things or not allowing us to do workouts. So that was the first step that, we were able to get past, and so we've done that. Right now we're looking at, the first 2 weeks of having no more than 10 athletes in a pod. And then the second 2 weeks, as long as the first 2 weeks obviously go the way that we expect them to, then the pod size would increase at that time. We also are working under some facility restrictions. So for example, the space you're looking at right now, the entire space is around 5,000 square feet. That's the room. However, there's equipment in the room, there's offices, there's bathrooms, so things like that. That takes away from the usable space. So before we moved the racks out of this facility, we were allowed to have 12 athletes in this facility. It's gone up since, but we're gonna keep it with 12 because it works for the athletes that we have coming through here. And on that same token, we've taken the racks from this facility and moved them into a separate facility because that's essentially doubling our space. We couldn't use all the equipment anyway. So even if we had 12 athletes in here, 12 athletes weren't going to use 12 racks. If they're in a pod, then they're still socially distanced. The cleaning protocols that we're implementing are enough to make sure that one pod doesn't cross-contaminate into another pod. And within that pod, then anybody who's testing positive ensures that the rest of that pod can be contact traced effectively. Once we hit the ground, we're going to be running, and whether it's the situation in 2019 with no social distancing, or 2020 with a very high level of obvious restrictions in place, once you get into the weight room, once you get into that session, nothing's different. The plan is certainly different, but the execution of that plan has not changed. The mentality hasn't changed. And as a matter of fact, I think that's one of the things that, particularly from a student athlete standpoint, is going to be very beneficial for them to understand. From the time you start the workout, the warm-up on the field, the conditioning, the moving into the weight room, all of those logistics, those are going to be structured in a way that from the start to the finish, you always have a place to be, you always have something to do. So at no point are you free to just do whatever you want. I mean, certainly there are pieces of that can be built in after we progress to that. But at the very start, it's very important to be super strict and put a high emphasis on the attention to detail of the safety, the safety implications of the things that we're doing. We plan on using the parking lot, maybe not necessarily for training, but definitely for spacing. So kind of what I was referring to earlier, if you have, like, say these two pods, or racks are a pod, those two are a pod, and these two are a pod, then you can have an area outside where people are standing. You can have an area over here where people are standing. I mean, there's such a vast amount of space here that essentially we're far under, like, the safety guidelines. Now, one thing to note is that this facility, since it's being used as a classroom, falls under the classroom restrictions, which across campus is a maximum of 30 people. So while this facility obviously is much larger than what would constitute a 30-person limit, we're going to keep it to 30 just to ensure that the safety is a number one priority. So like I said, we've just been able to be pretty creative with it in a way that we set up different workouts. So at the start, essentially what we're going to do is have the groups of athletes standing on the outsides. The only people who will be in this vicinity are the people who are actually doing an exercise. They'll be doing an exercise either for reps or for time, but it's going to be very controlled by the coach who's involved in that workout. And then when they're done with that, they'll leave the area. The next group will come in. So the standing area, or the rest, whatever you want to call it, what's not here, whether it's outside or in the infield, is going to be a very spaced situation, 15 feet at a minimum. And then in here, obviously, the racks are actually set up to a 14-foot spacing, which is the CDC standard. And so that's taken care of, but they'll be able to do their work here, and then they leave, the next group comes in. And really, as we start to progress that program, the space we have here is really just incredible. I mean, if you think about the possibilities, you can be doing an exercise in here, pairing it with something that is involved with the track, the infield. There's 4 courts right there. I mean, so whether it's shuttle work or different drills, the possibilities are really good. And those are inside. There's 4 doors here, there's a garage door here. We can open those doors, move outside. Or we can create a system where athletes are doing something on one side, coming through, going around, and circling back, and then you rotate through like that. So really, with the way the facility is set up, as long as our athletes are understanding exactly what it is that they're trying to accomplish, then the possibilities are very, very plentiful.
Access. At Villanova, no locker room access. Albany, no locker room access. So we have access. It's 10 at a time. You will be in your pods. Everybody is in a pod of 10. We have 3 workout times, so everybody is going to be in those. You stay separated. This plan is extremely laid out. It's safe, and it's the best thing possible to get work done, because at the end of the day, we got to make sure that we are optimizing the time that we have. I meant what I said, and the coaches meant what they said. We're not bringing people back here to just walk around and touch cones and do that. We are coming back to work and get ready. Realistically, we are going to be allowed to practice in October, right when the contact period starts. So we are building to that, and we're going to make sure we're ready. We can walk through. We can use footballs on Monday, so we're going to in Indy. We're going to do all those things, but again, Monday is about organization and routine. That's the biggest thing. And for some guys who've been here, it's going to be a little frustrating at the very beginning, because you're going to want to do more. Remember what I always say, this is its own team. This is a new team right now, your team. So we got to make the most of our opportunity. We are working towards a championship. So that's what we're going to do. Things are going to be a little bit different, but we're going to figure it out. Of all the places in the world, this is the best opportunity to be playing right now. It is. It's the best opportunity. So let's make the most of it. Everybody with us? We good? We got anything? Good?
Go, next wave up, let's go, next wave, drop it in. Next wave, drop it in. Get your next benches out.
First, we want to make sure we get through the routine. It's about the routine. So again, for a lot of you guys that have been training, that's going to be a little frustrating at first. You got to deal with it. You got to be mad about it. This is what it is. If we want to get to where we want to be and do the things that we want to do, then we got to find a way to push through this time right now.